Is up, everybody? Welcome back to my podcast. I know I missed Thursday and Friday, I believe. That way today's going to be a packed show, whether you're listening on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, whatever you guys follow, Anchor, Spotify, wherever you guys get your daily podcasts. Thank you for tuning in today. And, we're going to get started with the NFL. We missed a lot of big news and we got to talk about all of it. It's going to be a packed show, starting off with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I think they just pulled off a major trade that was absolutely necessary for them and their aspirations to get to the Super Bowl again. And if you guys didn't know, I'm pretty sure you guys do, the Baltimore Ravens traded Orlando Brown to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I think that's something crazy in and itself, right? When you have two AFC rivals, two AFC contenders, usually they don't do trades within themselves. Usually, if you have a good player, if you have a star player, you usually try to get them out of the division, probably someone in the NFC. Now, I believe that the reason why this trade happened was probably because it was the best trade that they could possibly get. No matter if the NFC, and they probably looked at it like, okay, we can probably send to the NFC, but we're not going to get as much. So we'd rather just send him within the division, right, in the AFC. And they're probably going to see each other in the playoffs, Kansas City Chiefs versus Ravens, because they're two of the top AFC teams in the AFC, as like I said before. And they said, you know what, look, they're offering me a first-round pick and a few other picks. Let's just exchange and, let's get this done. So if you guys don't know these specific details, the Chiefs gave up their first-round pick this year, 31st overall, their third round and their fourth round, and then their next year's fifth round. And they get Brown, and the Ravens gave up Brown, right, and the 2021 second-round pick, so this year's second-round pick, number 58, exactly, and a 2022 sixth-round pick. So, it wasn't a bad trade for the Chiefs. Now, at 31, it was not likely to get an all-star tackle like Orlando Brown. It was impossible unless you strike gold in the gold rush, because this is what happens when you get later in the rounds. Yes, there are some star players that come up or emerge, but they're not likely to be found during that time. Now, Orlando Brown, like I said, he was probably a steal for the Baltimore Ravens just about a few years ago. If you look at, the year that he came in, 2018, so 3 years ago, he came in third round. And that's something that the Baltimore Ravens probably saw as a steal, and they took him, and it was a steal, right? All pro, Pro Bowler, and, he had to fill in to the left tackle because Ronnie Stanley was injured. But, Ronnie Stanley coming back, the Baltimore Ravens just gave him about $100 million. They had to move Orlando back to the right tackle. And the left tackle is where all the money is. It's where all the fame is. It's where everything is. And it's the most essential piece in the offensive line to a quarterback who's a right-handed quarterback, because that's their blind side. So if you look at why he wanted to switch positions, why he didn't want to go back to right tackle, even though had he gone back to right tackle, it would have been possibly the best offensive line in the NFL, competing with the elite teams like the Browns and the Colts, right? So when you look at why he didn't want to go back, like I said, left tackle, that's where his money is. He has an expiring contract. He still is on the rookie deal, but since he's a third-round pick, his contract is expiring quicker than usual. So if you look at everything that was going on and why the Kansas City Chiefs got him, it was absolutely a must, right? They've definitely shored up the offensive line. They lost both of their tackles in the Super Bowl, and we saw what happened. Now, a lot of that falls on Patrick Mahomes because he wasn't able to make quick decisions and get the ball out quick. That has to be put on his shoulders as well. You can't just blame the offensive line. Same thing that we do with Russell Wilson. And you look at what happened, they then released both tackles, and everybody was so confused because that was their main excuse for losing the Super Bowl. Well, where you look at what they did to replace, I think they did a pretty good job. Now, I think the right tackle still has to be adjusted. I know they signed Remmers, who was atrocious in the Super Bowl and has been atrocious in the past Super Bowls. If you guys don't remember, he won Von Miller an MVP, Super Bowl MVP. Right? So that's insane when you look at why they re-signed him. I don't know. So they have to address the right tackle. But they just did sign Joe Thuney. Now they have Orlando Brown. They don't have a first-round pick, but like I said, in the 31st overall pick, it was not likely that you're going to find an offensive tackle like Orlando Brown. So I think compared to, you know, what they could have possibly gotten at the 31 overall pick, I think this was a phenomenal trade. I think Patrick Mahomes should definitely be a potential, you know, I would be willing to put money that they go back to the Super Bowl, like I was trying to say. But this is just insane how they managed to get this done, since they were within the division and they had so many holes needed for the offensive line. So I think this is a huge trade for Patrick Mahomes. I think that the, you know, Baltimore Ravens really are going to miss Orlando Brown. So this is something that had to happen, unfortunately, but is definitely going to be missed if you're looking at it from the Baltimore Ravens side. Moving on to other news coming from last week. Well, actually, this came out April 25th, so yesterday. But the cornerback for the new Vikings team, Patrick Peterson, former Arizona Cardinal, is switching from the number 21 to the number 7. Now, I know you guys have been hearing for a while, oh, Tom Brady was upset that the number is going to be changed up and everything. And most people don't grasp why that's kind of a good point to be made, right? To Tom Brady, I don't think it's a good point. I don't think he was the right person to voice it, because it doesn't really affect him. He has been in the game. He is a student in the game. He is dedicated to this game, and he understands film study, and he understands that numbers don't really change who the person is. Now you just have to remember them by another number, right? So all the film that Tom Brady ever, you know, saw on Patrick Peterson has been in the number 21 jersey. But in a game, he would now know to look at the number 7 and, oh my God, that's Patrick Peterson, done deal, right? That's something that you have to look, and that's why I don't believe Tom Brady was the right vessel to really voice concern, because it really will only affect the non-students of the game, right? Or you look at the rookie quarterbacks coming into the game. You look at the rookie linebackers. You look at all these other players that are coming in who are not as astute when it comes to studying for the football game. And that will trip them up. And that's something that you always have to look at. You look at, you know, these rookie quarterbacks, right? There's going to be like projected 5 in the first 10 picks. That's insane. But if that does happen, you have to look at what's going to happen in the offseason. In the offseason, there is no film for Patrick Peterson in the number 7 jersey, right? There's only Patrick Peterson in the number 21 jersey. And you look at the film and you understand, okay, so this is what he likes to do. This is his move. This is that. And then when you get on the field, if you're not an astute quarterback, if you're not, you know, a student of the game and you don't understand, or they do motions, or you get switched up, then you accidentally, if you're trying to avoid Patrick Peterson, you throw the ball to Patrick Peterson because you don't remember in that one swift moment, because the defensive lineman is trying to kill you, the linebackers are trying to blitz you, or whatever you may look at that. In that moment of desperation, you throw it to number 7 and he gets picked. That's the problem. And that's something that's going to be difficult, especially for these new players. Now, I don't think there's enough cornerbacks or safeties or linebackers that are going to switch their number, but it is absolutely something to take account for. If you look at these linebackers, the quarterbacks of the defense, and they have a rookie, a veteran tight end or a veteran wide receiver or somebody else switching numbers, and they've studied that. And then they're doing so, because remember, linebackers don't get that much rotation in the NFL game. And that's something that you always have to look at, especially when you're tired. You're trying to figure out who's going to rush to left, who's going to rush right, are we going to blitz, are we not going to blitz? Everything has to come from the linebacker. When you're looking all the rotations that are coming in, the third string tight end, the second string tight end, the third string wide receiver, the fourth string wide receiver, and they're all of a sudden a different number because all the film that you saw were them in their past number, then that's something that will affect for sure what's going to happen. And that's why I think it will take time. I think this first year is going to be the toughest for the NFL, for the rookie linebackers, for the linebackers who don't study as much as they possibly could or should, for the rookie quarterbacks who probably should study more but probably won't, or it's just something when you have to look at, because there is so much film study that goes into pre-NFL games. And when you look at these rookie quarterbacks who are not used to the talent of the NFL, because everything slows down for a veteran, good, astute quarterback. When you talk about the NFL, you see Tom Brady, the game slows down for him. You look at Aaron Rodgers, the game slows down for him. They're able to decipher what's going to happen next, read the defenses, and understand what you want to do, where you want to go. But for these rookie quarterbacks, I mean, we saw Patrick Mahomes, I think it was last offseason, where he finally admitted to the NFL, oh yeah, I'm finally starting to understand NFL defenses, right? So his talent took him far enough, won him a Super Bowl, absolutely stud. But you understand that he wasn't giving the entire effort towards understanding defense, and that's perfectly fine because I mean, as you can see, it didn't affect his results or his output. But it has to be taken for account. If somebody was able to switch numbers, they might have gotten, they might have tricked Patrick Mahomes a little bit more this offseason. I mean, this last season. But since it didn't happen, and I don't even think it's going to affect him as much as it possibly could, right? I mean, if you're a student of the game, you understand, okay, they're no longer that number. They're another number. And you just understand where it's going to happen in the defenses. But you have to look at these quarterbacks. You have to look at these young quarterbacks. You have to look at these quarterbacks who don't put enough effort into the game. And they will absolutely at least throw one more pick. Now, it's only going to be about a one more pick than they usually do. But in a crucial game, that's important. And that's something that I think many teams, especially if the Vikings are playing a NFC quarterback who was just taken in the first round, right? If you look at, maybe Washington trades up, or maybe, these other Atlanta Falcons, if they take one, right? You have to look at everything that has to go on. And you understand San Francisco 49ers, they might not be as familiar with the number jersey because all the film that they had to watch was Patrick Peterson in the number 21 jersey. Now they switch him up, they put him on the tight end, or they move him out, put him on the second wide receiver, or third wide receiver. Then the quarterback might get confused. Now, like I said, it's not a huge deal, but it will absolutely affect the game. And I don't think that's something that most people are talking about and most people understand, is that, because if you're not putting forth the effort, absolutely this should change your mind. Like I said, the game speeds up for somebody who doesn't study the game, right? Unless you're Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, these veteran quarterbacks, the game doesn't slow down for you. It only speeds up because the talent is more, there's more talent on the NFL team. The NFL teams don't compare to the college team. College teams, they're good, but there's a reason why they only select a few from college, and only even fewer make it to actual starting rosters on the NFL team. So I think it's something that's a little bit bigger than most people are making it out to be. But like I said, I don't think Tom Brady's the vessel that should have been saying it, because I don't think it will affect him as much as it will these rookie quarterbacks, or these quarterbacks who are not as astute and are definitely, a little bit more gun shy and don't understand the concepts of defenses and what's going to be thrown at them. So I give them all, credit. I think that this is going to be a bigger deal than it should. But like I said, it's not going to be a huge deal. It's not going to win or lose too many games. So hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully the quarterbacks adjust to it. Hopefully the linebackers adjust to it. The defensive line, whoever needs to be adjusted to it, absolutely adjust. And I'm excited to see what the NFL looks like. There's going to be a lot of changes, right? Different jersey numbers and extra game. So there's going to be a lot of changes to the NFL, and I'm excited to see it. Also happening over the week, Baker Mayfield's fifth-year option just got picked up. I think that this is a big deal if you're a Browns fan. You have to look at, okay, this is your trial period. I clicked on the free trial, and you look at what these apps are offering, right? You see Dak Prescott making $40 million a year. It gives you something into perspective, as in, is the Baker Mayfield the quarterback that we want in the future, right? They just picked up his fifth-year option. They didn't sign him to a 5-year deal. They didn't sign him to a $100 million deal. They just signed the fifth-year option. So it's just a trial phase, right? We see this every day with subscriptions or anything like that. They're giving you a trial phase, and this is what this is. And if you look at his numbers, it's not the best. He threw for 3,500 yards last year. He threw for 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last year. But you look at these other quarterbacks that are in his same draft class who are considered, maybe even the year before, and they're just not there. You look at Lamar, he threw for 2,700 yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. So pretty comparable, just a little bit less yards than Baker Mayfield. So that's definitely a bonus if you're Baker Mayfield. But you look at, Josh Allen, right? 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That's a leap from what Baker Mayfield threw, right? When you look at maybe Mitchell Trubisky, who's considered a bust, he only played 10 games and he had over 2,000 yards. He had 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So it's just something that you always have to consider when you look at these quarterbacks and where they're going to be projection wise, right? And that's something that you always have to take in consideration. Baker Mayfield, he wasn't the reason why the Browns won. He was along for the ride. You saw what Nick Chubb did. You saw what Kareem Hunt did. You saw the weapons that he has. If you look at the weapons, if you look at the team in general, right, side by side, I think they're very comparable to the Buccaneers. You look at their wide receivers, they got Odell, Jarvis Landry. You look at the tight ends, they have David Njoku, they have Austin Hooper. You look at the offensive line, rated the best offensive line last year. You look at the defense, they have Myles Garrett, they just signed Jadeveon Clowney. You have Troy Hill, you have Denzel Ward. You have all these players, yet they have not won as much as they did. Yes, they won a first round playoff game, but that wasn't the end all be all. You saw what Tom Brady did when the Buccaneers got a comparable not comparable. He is the GOAT at quarterback. Then you have to take things for perspective. We saw what Patrick Mahomes did as soon as he stepped into the league with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Browns are a little bit more talent-wise better than the Chiefs roster-wise. And that's saying a lot. But you have to look at the quarterback. He is the end-all be-all for the NFL. It's the most important position. And you cannot have a quarterback going for a ride. This is the same thing we saw with Dak Prescott. And I still don't agree that they gave him the $40 million a year. But you have to look at what happens. The progression. When he didn't have the most rushing yards, Baker Mayfield, right? His second year, 2019, he threw for 3,800 yards. So a lot of yards, 22 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. It's just not doable. And you can look at the same thing for other quarterbacks when you look at their progression whenever the keys are handed to them. You saw Russell Wilson. Yes, in the beginning, won Super Bowl. He won a Super Bowl, got to 2, was arguably a very good game manager, and they won. But when they give him the keys to the car, they no longer have the same playoff success. And that's something you always have to look at. We saw this with Dak Prescott. His first year, rookie year, 2016, 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 3,600 yards. And they won. They went into the playoffs. But Ezekiel Elliott ran for over 1,000 yards. Ezekiel Elliott was the heart and soul of that team. It wasn't Dak Prescott. The offensive line was the heart and soul of that team. It wasn't Dak Prescott. The wide receivers were very comparable. It wasn't Dak Prescott. We saw 2017, right? 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 3,000 yards. Okay, but it still wasn't Dak Prescott. When you look at 2018, right? 3,800 yards, so that's a little bit better. 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. It still wasn't Dak Prescott. Now they were transitioning, but it still was not Dak Prescott. And when you look at the last 2 years, right? You have to look at the last 2 years. 2019, they gave Dak Prescott the keys of the car and said, take us to the playoffs. He had the numbers. He was 98 yards short of throwing for 5,000 yards. 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. That's good numbers for the NFL. And you know what his record was? 8-8. And they missed the playoffs. You can't do that. You can't have the numbers and miss the playoffs. It's like the whole Peyton Manning, Tom Brady effect that was going on whenever they were both very young. Tom Brady had the Super Bowls, but he lacked the stats, right? That was the big argument. Oh, yeah, he wasn't throwing for the same number of yards as Peyton Manning. He wasn't throwing for the same number of touchdowns as Peyton Manning, but he was winning Super Bowls. Now, you can argue during that time he was a game manager, and he was, right? You have to look at they didn't put the team on his shoulders, right? Like they had for Peyton Manning. But Peyton Manning, because he had the weight on his shoulders, wasn't able to win as much as Tom Brady. But whenever Tom Brady transitioned from game manager to the greatest quarterback of all time, he started putting the team on his shoulders and was getting the numbers as well as winning Super Bowls. And we saw the same thing with Peyton Manning. Once he was able to lift a little bit off the shoulders of himself, he was able to win Super Bowls, or at least get 2 Super Bowls, win at a consistent rate, but was still getting the numbers. It's all about both. You can't have more than one. What good did it do for Dak Prescott throwing for 4,902 yards? They went 8-8. It's not doable. It's not okay. It's not possible. You can't give that type of production that type of money. It looks good, right? And in the game, oh, they're exciting, right? They're down 40-3 and they try to come back, and they always do, unless you're playing the Atlanta Falcons, which worst team when it comes to being clutch or finishing games, and they win. But the rest, they're not good. You have to look at what happens. Remember, Dak Prescott, 4 games he played. No, he played 5 games. Right? 5 games. Well, 4.5. Right? Played 4.5. Threw for almost 2,000 yards. Had 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. In 4 games. 4.5. If you look at the 4 games, before you don't count the 5th because he was injured. He got injured in the 5th game and wasn't able to finish the game. But when you look at the rest of the games, the other 3 games, he was 1-3. Besides the Atlanta, who had the biggest mental lapse in kickoff history, he was 1-3. That's not good enough. That's no matter how many yards you throw, no matter what you do, no matter how many touchdowns, no matter how many few interceptions you throw, it's all about winning when it comes to the quarterback. There is no excuse. It's all about winning. Winning is a stat to quarterbacks. You look at Baker Mayfield. He's getting the numbers now as a third wheeler. You look at Kareem Hunt, what he did. You look at Nick Chubb, what he did. And you see the amount of talent around Baker. And he's just there going for a ride. He reminds me a lot of Dak Prescott in the first year. Right? They're getting the numbers. And if you look at the numbers, when you look at Dak Prescott compared to Baker Mayfield in the very first year of Dak Prescott's career, they're very comparable. 3,600 yards for Dak Prescott rookie year, 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. You look at Baker Mayfield last year, 3,500 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Literally almost the exact same. But what was the similarity between the two? They both weren't driving the car. Dak Prescott was taking a third back seat to Ezekiel Elliott, the offensive line. Actually, he was maybe the 10th reason, possibly. There's so many players you can put, the responsibility on. Their defense was playing good. They had, a pretty good head coach, 8-8 Jason Garrett, and I know he was, I think he's better than Mike McCarthy, though. So that's something that's a different topic for another day. But you see Ezekiel Elliott, you see the offensive line, you see all these other components. And then there was Dak Prescott. And that's the same thing that we saw. I just read the numbers. And we all saw the games. Baker Mayfield was not putting the team on his back and winning the games. It just wasn't happening. So if I look at the Browns, I think they made the perfect decision. Okay, we're going to pick up the 1-week trial, right? They have him for 2 more seasons at a comparable, value for salary-wise. Let's see what you can do. And if you don't prove us wrong, we're going to move on from you. And I think that was the absolute best decision the Browns have made this offseason, right? When you have to have him for a few more years at a cheap rate, knowing that you have to know what's going on. If he is the franchise quarterback, they have to have more playoff success. There's no other excuse. Like I said, stats are very, very deceiving when they want to be, right? Anybody can make Baker Mayfield look like the savior. If you say those numbers, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's the one, right? But we all saw the game. We've seen it before with Dak Prescott. Like I said, it's not going to go out well. Do not make the same mistakes that the Dallas Cowboys did. Now, unless Baker Mayfield takes a giant leap, right? Because like 2 years ago, we weren't saying the same thing about Josh Allen as we are now. He deserves all the credit because he improved with himself. But we weren't saying give him all the money to Josh Allen a few years back, right? So if Baker Mayfield is going to take the leap that Josh Allen took, then absolutely give him the money, right? If he gets becoming the franchise quarterback, putting the team on his back, winning crucial games, winning is a stat as a quarterback, winning in the playoffs is a stat as a quarterback, winning in the Super Bowl is now a stat in the playoffs. When you look at Aaron Rodgers, what's the first thing you say? Oh, but he only won one Super Bowl. You look at Drew Brees, what's the first thing you say? Oh, but he only won one Super Bowl. You look at Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowls, right? It's a stat to the quarterbacks. So if you look at what's going on with Baker Mayfield, he has to win. He has to put the team on his shoulders, and he has to win. He has to progress. He has to show the Browns, the NFL fans base, everybody, that he has what it takes to win in this league. A few regular season games are not going to do it. We're seeing the same thing with Lamar Jackson. And people are already talking about replacing him. It's ridiculous. He's already won the MVP. But people are still wanting to replace him because winning in the playoffs is now a stat. And it's all because of Tom Brady. Before Tom Brady, 4 Super Bowls, the most you could possibly have. Joe Montana as a quarterback. You see Tom, 7. You see Patrick Mahomes, 2 Super Bowls in 2 years. 2 Super Bowl appearances, my bad. 1 Super Bowl win in 2 years. And it's something that you always have to look at. Playoff success is a stat. Regular season success is a stat. But you cannot have one more than the other and expect greatness. So I'm excited to see what Baker Mayfield does. I hope he wins. But overall, want him to succeed and want him to show that he has what it takes to becoming an NFL good franchise quarterback who is capable of winning. So I'm excited to see what happens, and we're going to move on to the next topic. Julio Jones has been receiving, the Falcons have been receiving offers to trade for Julio Jones. Now, any trade for Jones could not be executed before June 1st because of salary cap reasons, right? But could this be a possibility? I don't know. I don't know if they should. I don't know if they could. And I don't know if they would. Right? 3 of the biggest, I feel like Drax, if you guys seen Infinity War, I feel like that guy. But when you look at 2020, it was not a good year for him. Now, he almost had 1,000 yards, right? 771 yards total receiving. 3 touchdowns. Not the best. If you compare him to these other years, probably the best year ever had was 2015, 1,800 yards, 8 touchdowns. So when you look at Julio Jones, he's 32 years of age, and he did have injuries last season. Now, he always seems to have 1 or 2 injuries, especially early in his career. He played 13 games his first year, played 16 games the second year, only played 5 games the year after 2013, missed a game in 2014, played all season in 2015, 2014 missed 2 games, 2017 played all season, 2018 played all season, 2019 he missed a game, and last year he missed a total of 7 games. So you have to look at what's going on, the trends. If he's not getting any younger, he's still, I think, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL at this moment. But he has to stay healthy. Availability is the best ability you can possibly have in the NFL. It's everything, right? Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you are. We see this with Jimmy G. Oh yeah, his upside is so great, but he can't stay healthy, right? You always have to put that in. Oh, but any argument that he is going to be a franchise quarterback, but you always have to interject if you're arguing with somebody. He can't stay healthy. That's a fact. It's not conjecture. It's not potential. It's fact. You looked at Julio Jones, 32 years of age, did have an injury-ridden season last year, but still put up pretty good numbers. If I was the Atlanta Falcons, and I could possibly get maybe a first this year, or maybe a 2 firsts, maybe a first this year, 2 seconds, I would consider, just because of the cap hit, number 1, number 2, the age, and number 3, his injury history. Now, going it from the other perspective, if I was a franchise team who needs a wide receiver, maybe a Ravens, right? They now have 2 first-round picks. Maybe they gave up the number 31 overall pick for Julio Jones. Maybe you look at another team that needs a wide receiver, the Jets, maybe the Carolina Panthers, who seem to be going all in, maybe the 49ers. Many teams who need wide receivers. Would I trade for Julio Jones? Absolutely. Without a doubt. If I would send in my offer now. If I'm the Dallas Cowboys who want to take Kyle Pitts, just trade for Julio Jones. Maybe give 2 seconds. I don't know what he's going to command. He's 32 years of age, still one of the great wide receivers in the NFL. But I can see both sides of the fence. I have to be impartial, and I have to understand what's going on in the NFL. If I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I know what's in my locker room. He's not a diva. He is a hard-working man who doesn't have off-the-field issues that we know of, and is probably the best wide receiver in the NFL. So when you look at all of those things, you have to look at the age, you have to look at the injury history, you have to look at the production levels. If I was Atlanta, I would be open to hearing trades. And if I was another team who needs a wide receiver, I would be sending in a trade every day until I have it down in writing. Right? Julio Jones is not a player you pass up on if he ever comes available. If he had been a free agent, he would have been signed immediately. He doesn't have off-the-field issues like Antonio Brown, but he has the talent and the upside even greater than an Antonio Brown. Right? We saw what Antonio Brown did last year, scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. We saw what Julio did in 2016 in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady. He was phenomenal. He was phenomenal that year. He was phenomenal the year before. He was phenomenal the year after and the year after. 2018, 1,600 yards. That's insane. You don't pass up on that kind of talent. Right? Last year, he was 31 years of age, 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns. You always have to look at what is going on. You're Atlanta. You still have Calvin Ridley. It's kind of like the Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster dilemma. Is Calvin Ridley a true number 1, or is he just a very good number 2 like who Juju Smith-Schuster is? That's a dilemma for the Atlanta Falcons. So if I have the ability of getting another first-round pick this year, you need a quarterback at the number 4 overall spot. I would take a quarterback at the number 4 overall spot. You need Kyle Pitts, possibly. You need too much help. You have too many holes to fill. You have the defense that are trash. You have to address too many things. You finally got Dan Quinn out of there. That should have been gone a while back. That team needs a new face. That team needs a new culture. That team needs to be reimagined. Right, we saw them lose too many games. They lost a comeback game to Tom Brady again last year. They lost a comeback game to Dallas last year. They lost too many comeback games. They're not right psychologically, mentally. They're not right. So when you have the ability to I don't think Julio Jones is the problem. I'm not saying that by any measures. I think he's one of the greatest and definitely not a diva whatsoever from what we've heard. But you have to start getting rid of people to make them understand this is a new direction that we're going to. I would have to find a way to get rid of Matt Ryan. I wouldn't have signed them to the huge contract that they did, but everybody is entitled to their opinion. You have to readdress your team entirely. They're not okay mentally. They've been losing too many games. They don't know how to keep leads. They don't know how to come back. They don't know how to keep teams from coming back. And it's just a team that has to be readdressed entirely. So if I'm Julio, I would want out of there as well. This team has been trashed for a while, and I do not want to be a part of this. We had a chance at the Super Bowl. I don't see them going to the Super Bowl anytime soon, even though they have the talent. So if I'm Julio, I would love to get traded. If I was the Atlanta Falcons, I would love to start hearing trades. And if I'm another team that needs a wide receiver, I would love to be in the mix for Julio Jones. Imagine if Lamar Jackson gets Julio Jones. That's going to be insane. You have to look at these other quarterbacks. Now, he doesn't, from what I've heard, he doesn't complain much about the balls that he's not getting at. He's not like Antonio Brown, who's going to be throwing coolers if he doesn't get 9 targets his way every single game. So, I'm excited to see what happens. I don't think it's going to happen, but it should. It's just right for both parties in this case. I just think Atlanta Falcons is just wasting Julio Jones' talent, and I think that they absolutely need a fresh start. Moving on, Cowboys, like I said, trying to trade up for Kyle Pitts. I think that would be an absolute mistake, but everybody's entitled to their opinion, like I say on this show. I just don't believe that Dallas needs Kyle Pitts. And by needs, I mean at all. You have Amari Cooper. You have Michael Gallup. You have CeeDee Lamb. You took him first round last year. It's just not necessary. What you do need is offensive linemen, right? They should have traded for Orlando Brown. That's a necessity. They need a new running back. Tony Pollard is not the, ground and pound running back that they used to have in Ezekiel Elliott. With Ezekiel Elliott in the main focus, Tony Pollard comes in and does pretty good as a backup. But if you start him, game started first snap all the way to the end of the game, it's not going to work with Tony Pollard. He doesn't have what it takes. Now, I could get proven wrong by Tony Pollard. I just have not yet seen him be able to carry the load that Ezekiel Elliott has in the past years. Now, Ezekiel Elliott is not the same running back that we saw his rookie year, his sophomore year. It's slowly declining, and now it's glaringly obvious that he has devalued his position himself. And that's nothing wrong. It's just not exactly what they need. They need offensive line. They need defense. They need a Patrick Surtain. They need to be able to get these good enough players because they have too many holes. You can't have the most talent and have America's team and talk about greatness and, oh, we got Dak back. Yeah, you had Dak back 2 years ago. And you went 8-8. That's what you went. And the Eagles went to the playoffs and you didn't. That's what Dak got you. 8-8. It's not good enough. It's not what's needed. It's what needs to happen is for them to be able to progress, to get a better team, to change the culture that they have now. Their culture now is, okay, play good enough to get good stats, and then get paid the top position, and never be great again. It's not okay. It's not what's good enough. Mike McCarthy's not the answer. Dan Quinn is definitely not the answer. He's had a horrible defense for Atlanta as the head coach. It's not okay. It's not what's good. You can't hire subpar coaches and expect them to do great things. It's not going to happen. And then they just not breaking news, because I mean, obviously I'm not breaking the news, but most recent right now today, Sean Lee has retired. That's big. Sean Lee, although he's no longer the freshest legs as the linebacker as the Dallas Cowboys, he was for sure the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys defense. He has not been playing recently. He has had a tremendous amount of injury history in his past. Wasn't able to finish some seasons years ago, and hasn't been making the impact that we were expecting him to make for a while. But it's still a big blow having him in the locker room, having him there motivating and encouraging and teaching Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch exactly what to do, how to do it, how to be a very good linebacker. There was an argument a while back. Who was better, Luke Kuechly or Sean Lee? Sean Lee was exceptional when he was healthy. The problem was injury. Luke Kuechly was able to play most games. Sean Lee was not, and that's something that's big. So when you look at the roster that the Dallas Cowboys have, on offense, they look good on paper, but it doesn't result in the results that they're looking for, and it's wins, right? It doesn't matter if Dak Prescott throws for 4,800 yards when they go 8-8. That's not good enough. It's not an individual award. It's greatness. NFL, it's about wins. If you don't win, you're not great. And the Dallas Cowboys have not been great, not even good, for the last 25 years. And that's something that's not acceptable. They're not going out and accomplishing things that they should be doing. You can't go 8-8 and then sign everybody back and say, okay, well, now we're going to go win the Super Bowl. No, you need game changers. You need a veteran presence. You need a new culture. We saw what Tampa Bay did with Tom Brady. If they had re-signed Jameis Winston, You can't say, okay, we went 7-9 last year, but we still have the talent now. We're going to win the Super Bowl. It doesn't work like that. We have to get rid of Jameis Winston. No offense to Jameis Winston. He still has the talent of the world. But what I'm saying is you need the culture change. You need presence. You need veteran presence. And that's something that Dallas needs right now. You look at what happened last year. They lost Dak. They weren't good. Andy Dalton is not good. Now he's promised the starting job in Chicago. I don't know what Chicago's doing now. I think Mitchell Trubisky's a little bit better than Andy Dalton at this point of his career, but we're not getting into that. But what I'm saying is you can't do the same thing, right? That's the definition of insanity. You can't do the same thing and expect different results. Dallas Cowboys, everyone healthy, with 8-8, with Dak Prescott having one of the best years of his career. 8-8. Now, you want to re-sign everyone and expect to win the Super Bowl or go 10 there's 17 games now, so you can't go 8-8. So what are they going to go? 8-1? 9-8? What's going to happen? 8-9? What is the goal of the Dallas Cowboys? Jerry Jones is, I don't know if it's smoke screens or something, but he's trying to move up and try to get Kyle Pitts. That's not what you need. You don't need a tight end. You need an offensive line again. You need defense. You need to get off these bad contracts. Ezekiel Elliott, DeMarcus Lawrence. These are bad. Dak Prescott. These are bad contracts. Jalen Smith. Bad contracts. You can't keep on signing good players to great contracts expecting great results when they're giving you okay results. It's not going to happen. It's not going to go well. I've already said it. Dallas Cowboys are not winning the division. I believe the Washington football team is going to win the division. I think that the Giants are going to be better than the Dallas Cowboys. It's asinine to believe, okay, we were okay when everybody was healthy. But now, 2 years later, because we have everyone, we're going to win the Super Bowl. It's insanity. Buccaneers saw what happened. Jameis Winston, best statistical year, almost threw for 5,000. I think he threw for 5,000 yards. 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, or somewhere around there. And they said it would be absolutely asinine and a disservice for our football fans if we bring back Jameis Winston and propaganda that we're going to win the Super Bowl. And that's what the Dallas Cowboys are doing. Yes, Dak Prescott didn't throw for enough touchdowns as Jameis Winston did, but he only won one more game than Jameis on an equally talented team. Like, remember, Tom Brady went to the exact same team the Buccaneers went 7-9 with, and that year won the Super Bowl. And I know when people, oh, but he brought Gronk, oh, he brought Leonard Fournette, oh, he bought AB. Everything was because of Tom Brady. Tom Brady brought Gronk. Gronk retired when they were going to trade him to a bad franchise. He unretired just to play with Tom Brady. AB was getting recruited by Lamar Jackson. He was getting recruited by the Seahawks with Russell Wilson, going to his backyard, catching footballs with Russell Wilson. And what did he choose to do? As soon as Tom Brady went up to Bruce Arians and said, give me AB, the Buccaneers went out, gave an offer to AB. AB jumped on it. He chose to play with Tom Brady over Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, and countless other teams. Leonard Fournette was a free agent. Any team, and I mean any team, could have claimed Leonard Fournette. He chose to play with Tom Brady. That's the difference that most people don't see. But you have to exclude the newcomers, right? The exact same team, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, the offensive line, except for the right tackle, who was a absolute stud, and I will not take credit away from Jason Light for drafting him in the first round. But the defense, Ndamukong Suh was there, JPP was there, Devin White was there, Levante David was there, the cornerbacks were there, everyone was there. And they went 7-9. They saw their roster and said, we can win. Right? And what did they do? They went and got a quarterback, the quarterback to come in their franchise and help them win. They didn't sit on their lap, on their seat, on their hands, and just say, we're just going to win the Super Bowl. We're going to bring back Jameis Winston. That doesn't happen. It's asinine. It's ridiculous. And that's something that the Dallas Cowboys have to be held accountable for. Now they're trying to trade up for Kyle Pitts, knowing that their defense was their problem. They could not stop anyone. Atlanta had a 40-point lead on them. The Cleveland Browns had 40-game lead on them. If you saw the Cleveland Brown game against the Dallas Cowboys, you would have thought Baker Mayfield was a first round, was a future Hall of Famer. The Dallas Cowboys made everyone look good. They made every bad team look good. It's ridiculous. It's asinine. And I plead Jerry Jones to understand, just because you win the social media marketing, just because you win the marketing, just because you win the propaganda battle against every other team does not make you great. The Buccaneers saw their deficiency, and it was their quarterback. Yes, he provided the stats, but they did not provide the results. And what did they do? They went out and got the quarterback, who was, as I know, a free agent. Even the Cowboys could have bid on Tom Brady, which they didn't, from what we know. We saw the 49ers turn down Tom Brady. It's ridiculous. You cannot have Dak Prescott at a higher price and say, we're going to win. If they had paid Jameis Winston at $40 million, what would we have said? It's the most ridiculous move you could possibly make. And that's what the Cowboys are doing with Dak Prescott. One more game he won in a worse division than Jameis Winston. Think about that. Jameis Winston had to go against the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees, Matt Ryan and the Falcons when they were still good. They had to go against the Carolina. That's the one team I will give them before this upcoming few years. They weren't as good as they're going to be in the future. But you look at the Dallas Cowboys. They were going against the worst division in the NFL. Eagles were bad. That was the year that the Eagles barely made it to the playoffs. The Washington Redskins, at that moment they were still called that, were bad. The New York Giants were bad. And yet we won a propaganda. Everyone in the media wants to lift up Dak Prescott like he's the savior. Just because you got him, re-signed him to a bigger deal, does not mean he is going to win you Super Bowls. If you pay Dak Prescott more than Tom Brady, that does not mean he's going to be better than Tom Brady. And that's something that most people will not realize. So I hope everything goes well. I don't think it will. I don't think, like I said, Dallas Cowboys are going to win the division. I don't think they're going to win the NFC East, let alone the division. So I'm excited to see what happens, but definitely not anywhere close to what they want to be, especially even if they do take Kyle Pitts. Moving on, going on other not breaking news, like I said, today's recent news. Bill Belichick has been caught, or reportedly caught, talking to other teams to trade up. This is big news. They have Cam Newton as a very cheap backup quarterback salary for a 1-year deal. They have Jarrett Stidham, who is absolutely not the answer, even though we have to note that Jason Stidham was Bill Belichick's answer to Tom Brady leaving. That has to be noted. He propaganded Jason Stidham as being the answer to replace Tom Brady. Failed miserably. Ends up miraculously with Cam Newton on the open market for a $1 million, I think it was $1 or $2 million. So it's insane. They have Cam Newton. He's definitely not the answer. I'm sorry. I love Cam. I love his ability, his talent. He just does not have what it takes. His body has been beaten up too much. It's just not good enough. He's not accurate enough. He doesn't have what it takes to play in the New England offense. Now, can he still be good? Absolutely. We saw the first three games. But what happens when you stop the run? What happens when you put the spy on him? It's just not good. So, who could they possibly trade up to? If you look at the draft picks, right? If you look at where everything is, if you look at the draft order, there's not much he could possibly move up to if they played their cards correctly. If the other teams play their cards correctly. Jets, not moving from number 2. Sorry, missed number 1. Jacksonville, not moving from number 1. Jets, definitely not moving from number 2. They traded away Sam Darnold. They have no quarterback. They're taking a quarterback. Number 3, San Francisco. They gave up the farm to move up from number 12 to number 3. They're not moving. They're drafting a quarterback. So that's 3 quarterbacks, 1, 2, and 3. Boom. Number 4, that's a possibility. Atlanta Falcons. Like I said, should they draft a quarterback? Absolutely. Matt Ryan's not the answer. He's in his head. He's lost touch. We talk about Carson Wentz looking like deer in headlights. We've seen that from Matt Ryan. Losing is now in his mentality. Can it be taken out? Yes, absolutely. But will it be difficult? More than yes. You look at number 5, Cincinnati. They're not drafting a quarterback. Could they move? Could they move with the Cincinnati Bengals? Possibly. You have the Miami Dolphins at number 6. Will they be open to moving back? There's reports that they're opening to moving forward and drafting a quarterback, or even staying pat and taking a quarterback, whoever's left from the fray. The Detroit Lions, I don't believe they're going to take a quarterback because they have Jared Goff, but should they? Absolutely. Jared Goff is not the answer. We've seen that. You don't have Sean McVay there to pull the strings of Jared Goff in order for him to take the next step and be the quarterback that we all saw him be whenever he took the team to the Super Bowl. Carolina, are they going to take a quarterback? They possibly could. But that's an interesting point where if you want to trade up too, right? We've heard reports that Atlanta's willing to trade back. What is it going to cost Bill Belichick to move from number 15 to the number 4 spot? It's going to be the farm. He is about to be 70 years old, if not already 70 years old. He's desperate. He saw Tom Brady go to the Buccaneers and win a Super Bowl immediately. I'm excited to see what happens. When you look at, number 9, maybe the Broncos. The Broncos should absolutely trade up to get a quarterback or draft a quarterback who's still there. Right? There's 5 quarterbacks that are intriguing. There's 10 spots. First 3 are already going to be taken. If you look at the mock drafts, everybody's saying Trevor Lawrence is going number 1. I personally would not take Trevor Lawrence number 1, but I'm not the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 2, New York Jets. Everything's pointing to taking that BYU kid. I don't see it. I thought Sam Darnold was the version of that, just slightly better in college. And the Jets are a horrible franchise. I don't know if they're going to be able to surround him with the pieces that he's going to need. That's going to be interesting. Number 3, San Francisco. Supposedly, reports say that they've narrowed their quarterback down to 2 players, Trey Lance or Mac Jones. Could the Jets potentially shock the world and not take Zach Wilson and take Mac Jones? Absolutely. Will it happen? I don't believe so, but it could happen. Everybody was saying Sam Darnold was going to go number 1 overall, and the Browns shocked everybody with taking Baker Mayfield number 1 overall, and we're still waiting to see if that pans out. But what I'm saying is that could be a potential, a supposed shocker to the world, right? And if they do take Mac Jones, will the San Francisco 49ers look at, taking the BYU kid, Zach Wilson? That would be interesting. Number 4, Atlanta. That leaves, so that's number 3. So that's 3 quarterbacks taken right there. I think it would be Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, because Mac Jones resembles more of a Kirk Cousins, and supposedly the Shanahan family is in love with Kirk Cousins, and they tried to recruit him. They tried to get him earlier, but he decided to go with the Vikings because they offered more money. So when you look at what's going on, that leaves Justin Fields, Trey Lance as the other 2 quarterbacks that potentially could be taken in the first 10 picks, because that's 3 already out of the 5 supposedly highest rated quarterbacks. When you look at Atlanta, could they take Justin Fields? I would take Justin Fields as I was at Atlanta at number 4. But, we're having reports of Bill Belichick wanting to trade up. So it's just interesting. I'd wonder who he would select. I think he would probably go with a Mac Jones if he could. I don't think he's going to be on the board unless the San Francisco 49ers take Trey Lance and everything else is according to plan. I don't think that the Atlanta Falcons would take Mac Jones over Justin Fields. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback, unfortunately. I think that they're set on Matt Ryan because they owe him so much money. But I think they're going to take either Kyle Pitts or Sewell. That's going to be interesting. I think that the Miami Dolphins and Cincinnati Bengals are going to either take Kyle Pitts or Sewell or Jamar Chase. I think those are the 3 options. One of them is not going to be there because number 4 is going to take him, unless somebody trades up to the number 4 spot and takes a quarterback such as a Trey Lance or a Justin Fields. So that's going to be very interesting because the Cincinnati Bengals going to have the pick of the highest graded quarterback, the highest graded non-quarterbacks in the draft. They're going to have the picks of Jamar Chase. Are they going to pick Sewell? They're going to pick Kyle Pitts. It's going to be very interesting. Number 6, Miami. There's going to be one quarterback left if somebody trades up to the number 4 spot and selects a quarterback. Are they going to select a Trey Lance instead of a Kyle Pitts or a Sewell or a Jamar Chase? One of them is going to still be there. So that's going to be interesting. This draft, it's Monday. It's in 3 days if you don't count Monday. I'm excited to see what goes on. I'm excited, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Stats. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're on TikTok, Twitter, everything. Love to guys have communication with me, and I'm excited to see what you guys think of my takes and progress further for sure daily show. So I'm excited. Hope you guys have a wonderful day and enjoy.